Hi everyone, I am your host, Jade Haggard, podcasting from Art Universe Laboratory. Welcome to Artist Solace. Hello again, and thanks for listening. On today's episode of Artist Solace, I interview artist Heather Fidler. Heather is a visual artist from and currently living in Indianapolis, Indiana, and she creates these incredible mandalas. And we learn about what sparked her interest in mandalas and how she started generating business early on by selling them. Find out her process involved in creating these incredible, fascinating pieces of work and their relevance in different cultures, religions, and scientific phenomena. I'm a huge fan of them, an absolute huge fan. They are awesome. I connected with Heather on Instagram after becoming interested in the flower of life from sacred geometry. She has a multitude of mandalas posted on Instagram, all of which are different. I will be posting some of my favorites throughout the week. I hope you enjoy our conversation and can extract the enthusiasm and passion Heather gives us while talking about her work. She gives us a great overview of her life and the development of her work over time. You can find her work locally in Carmel, Indiana, displaying at the Art on Main Gallery. On Instagram, you can find her as @FeatherFidler, FeatherFidler, and also her website, www.heatherfidler.com. She also has a tutorial on Instagram if you are wondering about her process in making these mandalas. Also, at the end of the conversation, Heather's daughter, Nev, says hi to us. She asked me if she could say hi on the podcast when she arrived at the house with her mom. It was really cute. Thank you, Nev, for that. Thanks for making a guest appearance. Best of luck to you and all of your endeavors as well. Here is my interview with Heather Fidler. Enjoy. We are here at Art Universe Laboratory recording Artist Solace. I'm here with artist Heather Fidler from Indianapolis. Are you from Indianapolis?
I am. I'm from Indy.
Okay. Hi, Heather.
Hello.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for showing up.
Thanks for the invite.
I'm really excited to talk to you today about you and your art. You do these things called mandalas, and they are really, really cool. So cool, I actually purchased one of her artifacts last year, and that is the second piece of art I've ever bought, original.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
And my second or third, but yeah, that's how cool they are, if you know that. If I purchased some of it. And I'll actually release a picture of that on the Artist Solace podcast page on Facebook, so I'll show you. I may get a picture of both of us together. So today we're going to talk to you about what your journey has been like pursuing your art. And the first question we're going to start off with is what you're doing currently to pursue your art.
So currently, I've been on Instagram quite a bit. I've been growing my Instagram a lot. That's where I sell most of my artwork. So I've been focusing on that. I've really enjoyed connecting with fans on there. And it's a lot of fun to share what I'm working on as I'm working on it, answering questions, trying to help teach other people how to do it, what materials I use. The mandalas that I do don't look like other people's mandalas, and I don't use the same type of material a lot of other people use. So I've really enjoyed sharing that with people and showing them what I do and teaching them how to do it. And then here lately, I've been, in the last couple of years, been trying to show my artwork more locally. I never had done that before. I've always been online with my art, and having people look at your art in person is such a wonderful feeling, to have them look at it and ask questions about it and to see their faces when they're looking at it. It's so much fun. And I always felt like an outsider to the art world, like a gallery or, so here in the last couple of years, I've been trying to enter more shows and things like that to get it out locally.
Okay. I think that's, no, not that I think. That is actually how I wound up meeting you, is through Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually looking up, starting to follow sacred geometry and geometric artwork, and then somehow I stumbled upon one of your pieces, and then I saw that you were in Indy, and then I started asking you questions because they were really, really cool designs and really cool. So that's interesting that you said that was your main means of showing your art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I've
always been online. Yeah, and before Instagram, I really just started Instagram about 2 years ago. And before that, and when I first started selling my artwork, it was all on eBay. So I would draw something and then post it on eBay for $1. And then whatever it sold for, it sold for. And they always sold, and they always sold for a decent amount of money.
Mandalas?
Mm-hmm.
So you would draw the actual mandalas on a piece of paper and just sell them for $1?
Yeah, well, I posted them for, eBay's an auction site.
Okay, see, I forgot. I haven't been on eBay.
Yeah, like, does anybody go on eBay
I don't
anymore? I
been a
don't.
while.
So I would, it's an auction site. So you would post it for $1, and people would bid on it. And then whatever it sold for, it sold for. And you could set a limit, like it had to sell for 20 or 50 or whatever you wanted to sell, whatever you're selling. But I didn't put a cap on it. It was whatever it went for. And like I said, I was always really happy with the selling price. And I shipped them all over the world. So that was my main means of selling my art for years.
That is really cool. That's a good idea, too.
Yeah, and eBay takes a little bit of a commission, but it's nothing compared to a gallery.
What would they sell for? What's like the most you sold?
The most? Oh, probably 800. It was those were some big pieces.
Whoa.
Probably amongst the biggest that I've ever created.
How big were they?
It was probably about 3 feet by 3 feet. I did a couple that size, and I think the biggest one, it was really cool. I probably have a picture of it someplace. I mean, this was years ago, but I sold it to a lady in Canada, so I had to package that thing up.
On drawing paper?
So anything over a foot, I usually put it on artboard, because the paper, when you draw on it, it can mess with the structure of the paper, and then it gets a little wonky and it doesn't lay flat. And so for stability, typically anything over 12 inches I do on artboard.
What's artboard?
So it's just it's a really thick cardstock, like double thick cardstock, kind of that.
And those would be 3 foot by 3 foot.
Well, they sell them in all different sizes. There's a couple different companies that sell them that I like. They have them in different colors, but mostly white and black are the primary colors that you can buy. Some people see it as illustration board.
Okay.
So some people notice that.
Now that's sounding
like
more
a Bristol
familiar
board.
Now. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So those are great for big pieces.
Okay. That's so cool. And I've always wondered, when did you first start drawing mandalas or doing mandalas, whatever?
Yeah. So I learned about them in high school. I learned about them freshman year of high school. I learned about them in geometry class and in art class at the same time. Like, it came up in both classes the same week. And I was fascinated. I loved them.
You think they did that on purpose?
I don't think so, but it would be kind of cool if they did.
That is so weird. I didn't have anything like that in my math class. So it's like, how did they even present that to you, and why?
Yeah, in geometry. So, I mean, because it's geometry.
Maybe I would have liked geometry more.
Yeah, I love geometry, and maybe that's why. So, I learned about them in both classes, and it was freshman year, so it was basic art, and it was something that my art teacher taught his basic art class, and I started creating them, and I just absolutely loved it. I loved that it was art, but it was also science, and it was math, and it was nature, and it was, like the sacred geometry.
It's
and
supposed to be everything in the universe.
Yeah, it's religion, but it's also science. Oh my gosh, it is just perfect thing to me.
Yeah.
It's the universe. It is the root of everything.
Yes. That's why it's like fascinating to me too. Because I learned about it was the flower of life in sacred geometry. But I'd never heard of mandalas. And I just, when you told me that you learned them in math class, I was like, well, that's really cool. And what you do, how you actually design them. I don't know how that works, too. I still have not seen you actually.
I have a tutorial on my Instagram.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, because I get that question so much.
Okay.
And I do it so, the way I do it is so different than anybody else that I just went ahead and made a little tutorial.
How is it different?
People use a lot of compasses, and I don't use a compass. I tried once, like 20 years ago, and I was not impressed, so I don't use a compass. What I do is I work in a square, so I take the paper and square it off. And then I, cross the corners and split it down the middle and make a T or a cross, whatever. So split it up into, 4 sections, 8, 16. You can do it in fourths. You can do it in sixes. You can do it in thirds. You can split it any way you want to get however many points you want on your mandala. So I draw out that grid, very, very simple, just splitting the paper. And then I start in the center and just work my way out. And in the beginning, I had no plans whatsoever for what it was going to look like. So however it turned out was however it turned out. I picked the colors in advance, and sometimes they do change as I go. But I just start in the very middle and work my way out. Now I do a lot more planned pieces where I have a sacred geometry idea in mind, or shape, or whatnot to use, or I have some mathematical principle that I want to put in the piece. So I do a little bit more pre-planning now. I don't just start in the center and whatever happens, happens. I just did a chakra series where I researched each one of the chakras and then made my interpretation of that chakra based on my research. So obviously that was, planned out what they were going to look like. But that's really it. I use rulers, so I measure everything, and everything has to be perfect.
Of course.
And that was one of the things I loved about it. And so I just measure out. And, you measure out 2 inches from the middle all the way around, and then you connect the dots, and there's your circle. It's and when you've been drawing circles freehand for 35 years or whatever it is, then you get pretty good at it. So you don't really need a compass.
So, like, your circles are freehand?
A lot of times, yeah. I've got
Holy shit.
I've got a rounded ruler that has like it's like a half circle, and then it has like 1/4 of a circle. That I can use sometimes to speed things up. It's faster. And then I've tried using templates for circles, but they're never perfect, ever. So those are very frustrating. But for people who are just starting out, that's a great thing to use, is just use a template. I've yet to find one that's perfect, so I don't like them.
Interesting.
But it can help speed up the process a little bit.
So what you said that you started using mathematical
mathematical
things. Can you elaborate on that?
Just like the Fibonacci, that's one of my favorite.
She's actually wearing a necklace
with the Fibonacci.
Yeah, a Fibonacci necklace.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Just in geometry with the measurements, and there's different mathematical principles like the Fibonacci that I'll sneak into pieces here and there. There are times that if you went through and counted the dots in the mandalas, like the first row would all have 1 dot, and the second ring out would all have 2 dots, and the next ring out would all have 3 dots. And I do sneaky little stuff like that I don't know if anybody ever notices, but I know it's there. Little things like that.
Okay, that's so interesting.
Yeah,
It's like the perfect way to combine art and science.
yeah. So when I first learned about mandalas, I started researching them because I was just fascinated. And back then, I mean, this is the early 90s, early 90s. Nobody talked about mandalas. There was no mandala. Nobody talked about them. There were no books. There was nothing. So I started researching them, and I learned about the Buddhist monks make sand mandalas. They have a big ceremony that they do where they create these sand mandalas. They do all these prayers while they're creating them. It's crushed semi-precious stones that they use to make them. They're just absolutely beautiful, so bright and colorful. And then at the end of the ceremony, they sweep up all of the sand and take it to a stream or a river and put it in the water. It's a whole part of their ceremony.
Oh, so it has a lot of religious context then as far as Buddhism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the pattern that they draw is kind of like a temple pattern, like a floor plan. Of course, that's not really what they...
Sure, right?
But if you can imagine, that's kind of like what it is. In north, east, southwest is each a thing, and I'm not Buddhist, so... but it's fascinating. But then once you start looking into it, you see almost every culture has their version of mandalas. So, I mean, Catholics have, they use the mandala in their rose windows and the huge, Catholic cathedrals. A lot of Catholic churches have walking labyrinths that are mandalas.
Walking labyrinth.
Yeah, it's like a big mandala on the ground that is a pattern that you walk it. So you pray while you're walking it.
Oh, wow.
And it's a way to focus your mind. So it's a form of meditation. And it's something that a lot of Christian faiths have used for a long time. And then in their architecture, they use it quite a bit. And then the Native Americans used a lot of mandalas, especially with their religious beliefs. And they're everywhere. And then when you look into the science with just the geometric shapes of microorganisms and the molecular level, when you get down and look at the cells and the perfect symmetry that's in some things, like crystals, it's just...
That's the really fun stuff.
Oh, man, it's so cool. And then, so you look down at this microscopic thing, and it's this perfect shape, this perfect mandala shape sometimes, and then you go out and look at the whole plant, and you see these perfect mathematical shapes. And like I said, I feel like mandalas are just the source code of the universe. Mm-hmm. It's what everything's built on. It's geometry, it's God, that's the base. So, learning about him, I just became fascinated. I wanted to know everything I could and learn all about it. And then I was selling quite a bit on on eBay in my 20s is when I was doing that.
When did you start selling on eBay? I still don't remember when it came out. Was it in the 90s?
So it was either late 90s or like 2000. I want to say late 90s is probably when I started. Before that, I would make them and give them to my friends and family. Probably late 90s.
Okay.
98, 99. And then all through the 2000s, I would sell them on eBay. And then when I was 30, I had my daughter, and I took a little time off from creating my art with working and having a relationship and having a baby. life gets crazy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I feel like a lot of artists do that. They have a baby and then they stop
Yeah,
creating.
well, especially women. It's just a little more difficult, especially if you want to have children, to balance everything, especially within the first 2 years of the kid's life, the baby's life, whatever. So,
yeah, balance, man.
Yeah, bro.
It's hard to do. And I mean, it was a really rough time for me. My ex-husband was going through some changes with his job while I was pregnant and giving birth and being in the hospital after having my daughter. He was going through job interviews and changing jobs and whatnot. And he entered the state police and then went to the academy for 6 months after I had my daughter. So we saw him on the weekends sometimes.
He had to stay at the academy?
Oh, yes.
Here in town?
Yep, they lived there for 6 months.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, for state police. So,
I just applied for an IMPD patrol. Like
IMPD is different.
Oh.
But state police. IMPD
state police,
doesn't.
okay.
So the police academy out in Plainfield is not IMPD.
Yep. I learned that too when I applied. Okay, but the Plainfield one. See, I don't know. I wonder if IMPD makes you stay there.
The last I knew, and I've been outside the police world for a little while now, but the last I knew, IMPD had their own academy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
That's where
they
we
don't
went to train.
Yeah.
But,
and they don't.
okay.
They don't live there.
But Plainfield, you have to stay there.
Plainfield, they stay
maybe
there.
that's because whoever's applying, doesn't everybody from the state out of Indy go to Plainfield?
So state police, everybody in the entire state goes to Plainfield. They
That's
all go
probably
through
why
the
they have
same
to stay
training
there.
program.
Okay.
But they also do sheriff's deputies there.
Okay.
They do more than
Okay.
just state police there.
I see that.
The IMP just doesn't
All right.
go there. A lot of other police departments throughout Indiana send their cadets there too.
That makes sense now.
But IMPD is so big, they have their own training academy.
So.
Yeah, so he was gone for 6 months. So I was taking care of the whole house, working, taking care of the baby, and he had a son, and I had to help take care of him too. And so I did not have time.
Yeah, man.
to and all the things that we had to do for him to get everything done he needed over the weekend while he was home, because dry cleaning, trying to find a dry cleaner that works on the weekends, good luck. It was brutal. But we made it. And so I took some time off, and after a couple years and everything got back to normal, and he's working a normal schedule, and my daughter's getting older, and I really missed it. I missed it so much. And one day it just hit me that my daughter doesn't even know I'm an artist. My daughter is not going to know her mom is an artist, what I can do, what I create, that whole side of me. And it was really sad. It's
the end of the day. Now everybody's coming home.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
Yeah, so it was really sad, and I just wanted to get back to that, so I started creating again. And about that time, barn quilts started to be a big thing. And I don't know how much you've seen barn quilts.
No, I was just going to ask what the hell.
Have you ever drove out in the country and you'll notice this big thing stuck on a barn that's a square and it has a pattern in it?
No, not that I've noticed. Not that I've ever been like, oh, what's that thing?
Yeah, my family all lives out in the country.
Oh,
so it's
cool.
called a barn quilt, and they're really big in rural areas, and people put them on their barns. Usually the pattern is either a symbol for the family or something that means something to them. A lot of times they're quilt patterns. Quilting, you do squares. You have quilting squares, and each square is a pattern, just one pattern, and then when you put them all together, you have your pattern for your quilt, the overall pattern. Well, a lot of people have a quilt square that represents their family. A lot of country families do. And so then they want that pattern on this huge thing that they hang on their barn. Some people get way more creative with it and have almost like a logo, but for the most part, it's usually something like a quilt square.
Now, is that something that's Indiana
Oh,
based?
no,
or
no. Nope.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's not regional. It's all over in the country. I don't know how much out west they do it. I haven't been out west a whole lot. But the East Coast, in the rural areas, through Ohio and Pennsylvania, it was huge. Absolutely
I wonder
huge.
what that
Yeah,
stemmed
I'll
from.
show you.
Of course, everyone from the West is like a result of European immigration.
Yeah,
so
I feel like it was kind of an old thing that people used to do a long time ago. Kind of a way to put their signature on their farm. You saw that and you knew that that was that family. And then they just became popular again in the early 2000s or mid 2000s or around 2010. It was probably at the height of the barn quilt craze. So I started making some barn quilts. So I made one for my grandmother. She has a barn in Kentucky. And hers was a quilt square that she really liked. And then I made one for a friend of ours who lived up where my ex-husband's from. Their barn, it was a tractor company that they liked. You know how there's different tractor companies and some people like some more than others. So
like John Deere.
Yeah. So theirs was the Harvester, International Harvester.
Okay.
So I took the IH for the International Harvester and turned that into a mandala and painted it on a huge plywood thing, and it's still hanging on their barn.
You painted it on? Like, on the barn?
No.
Separate?
You paint it, so you get a huge slab of plywood, and you paint that, and then you hang that on the barn.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And I had my daughter help. Like,
Do you have pictures of that?
I'm sure I do somewhere.
Yeah.
It's around here someplace.
You had your daughter help, you said?
Yeah. I had her help me, paint the base coats and seal it and all that. And I mean, she was tiny. She was like 2 or something, but she loved it. It was so much fun. And that's when I started getting back into it. I entered a county art show then and won Best of Show and
With
Judge's
that
Choice.
design?
No,
Or-
it was one of the mandalas that I had created a few years before. It was one that had an imperfection in it, and so I didn't like it, so I didn't sell it because it wasn't perfect.
Of course.
So I had it framed really nice. I have a framer that I absolutely love down in Madison, Indiana, that I try to have him frame all my stuff.
And still currently?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
really?
he's great.
I might have to talk to him.
Yeah. Oh, finding a good framer is so hard, man. It is so hard. And around here,
I mostly shop at Michael's actually has been my go-to.
buying like
times.
pre-made frames, like
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. But if you need a custom frame for something, or if you just want something nicely framed, Michael's is crazy expensive. Even if you get a coupon, I mean, it's
I know. They always
still
have that 40% off.
It's ridiculous how much it is. Yeah, I'll hook you up with my guy. I mean, it's in
Word.
Madison,
Where is
Indiana.
Madison?
It's on the Ohio River between Cincinnati and Louisville.
Okay.
It is down there. So
Okay.
I lived, in the early 2000s, I moved to Madison. I'd worked for a bank, and the bank got taken over, and all the employees, we got a huge settlement package out of it. So I was in my mid-20s and didn't have a job anymore and had no bills, and decided I was leaving Indy. And I had gone down to Madison, Indiana. I was dating somebody who was from there, and I went down there and just absolutely loved it, and moved down there and found a job, and I did a lot of I would sit down in Madison, Indiana on my front porch and draw mandalas and sell them on eBay.
Okay.
People at the post office knew me real well.
Yeah.
And then that's where I met the framer, and he just does such great work, and his prices are unbelievably good. So I still go down to Madison several times a year. I've got lots of friends down there.
That's what I was going to ask. Are you able to order frames from him, like, through the internet, or do you go down there?
No, I go down there. So,
Okay.
or there's times that I can't get down there, or I'm going to go. So my hairdresser still lives in Madison. So I go a couple times a year to have her do my hair and, make the trip to Madison. And then I can visit friends and everything. Man. It's really nice. My sister and my mom and I
How
go.
far of a drive is that?
About an hour and a half.
Okay.
2 hours
Not
if
bad.
you got horrible traffic and bad weather, but that's rare. So about an hour and a half drive. So it's very reasonable. But there's been times that I've shipped him stuff, shipped him artwork,
Oh.
and I was there and he was closed, so I left the artwork with a friend who took it to his office or shop next time they were open. And then I talked to him on the phone and say, show me what you can do with this.
Yeah.
He sends me, texts me some pictures of his ideas, and he does such great work.
So he's responsible for all the frames I've seen on any of your work?
No. Or... He just does special ones for the most part.
Okay.
A lot of times, I'll just throw something in a plain, simple frame for a show. Yeah. It just really depends on what it's for. If I'm having something framed for somebody that they're going to keep it in that frame, then I would have him do it. Mm-hmm. If it was for a show where you might not want that frame, then I'm just going to get a simple pre-made frame, simple black, plain pre-made frame and throw it in there. Or my boyfriend and I sometimes make frames for the pieces and then use those. And that's a lot of fun to do too.
Right on.
We're getting better at it.
Do that inside your house? Do you have like
in the garage
or something?
Yeah, not in the house. But yeah, in the garage. So so this piece, it was a little bit old. I'd created it a few years before, but like I said, I'd had him frame it, and he did this amazing job, and it looked so good. And people would look at it, and they couldn't see the imperfection, but I did. So, and it's so funny. That happens sometimes. I'm creating a mandala, and I mess up, and I hate it. Mm-hmm. And it almost seems like those end up being people's favorites. I don't know why. It drives me crazy a little bit because I'm like, it's not perfect. It needs to be perfect, and it's not. You shouldn't like it.
I wonder why that is, man.
But people love it. So
I feel like artists share similar experiences. Like, you'll have the one that you don't really like, but for some reason, everyone else likes it. Uh-huh. And it's like, WTF.
Yeah, it happens all the time. It's so crazy. There must be some kind of universal
psychology behind that.
Yeah, something, man.
You have so much hateful energy in it, and that's why people gravitate towards it.
Maybe you messed up, so you just don't care anymore, and you're just so you're not so focused on the perfection or it being just right. You're just going with it, going with the flow, and then people gravitate to that. I don't know. We're gonna figure it out, but. So I entered that piece, and it won 2 awards, and I was just so excited and felt, very...
2? Like
validated.
At the same...
Best of Show and Judge's Choice.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, this is...
Okay.
Yeah. First thing I've ever entered.
That's some good feedback.
Yeah, and, it was out in the country where we lived, and they'd never seen anything like that before.
I see.
And this was still before, mandalas really got really big. After that, I got divorced and moved back to Indy. And when I came back to Indy, I felt like such an outsider in the art world. I'd been gone for like 10 years, and I didn't know anybody in the art world, and thought of going into a gallery and, hi, I'd like you to hang my artwork on the wall. Mm-hmm. That just sounded crazy to me. So, but I started trying to enter a couple little shows, and I eventually I built my website, and I started a Facebook page, but Facebook got kind of weird with, their group pages where they don't exactly show people what you post. They want you to pay for them to show your posts to people. So you'll notice with a group, when you post something, not everybody who follows you even gets to see it. You have to pay to promote it to really get it out there.
Group setting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the group, like a business account on Facebook.
Oh, I see.
So if you follow any of those, you'll notice that you don't really see too many posts that they do very often, and that's why. Facebook, it didn't used to be that way. It used to be that you follow a page, you want to hear all about it, you want to see the things they post, and you would see them. And then Facebook decided to monetize that a little bit more, so they changed it, changed the format. And I feel like a lot of artists did that. A lot of artists had their work on Facebook and probably reached quite a bit of people. And when Facebook made that change, it was dramatic. It was, the way you reached all your patrons was just gone. So then I went to Instagram and started teaching myself that and learning how to do that, and got such an amazing response from people on Instagram. It was really cool. And I've just been there doing that ever since. And then trying to do more local shows and things every once in a while.
Where are you showing currently? Are you...
Yeah, right now we've got a pop-up art show in Speedway, Indiana. It's May, and the race is happening this month.
Mm-hmm.
And I had joined the Speedway Center for the Arts last year because I was really wanting to be a part of a community, an art community, and, you know, meet other artists and do artist stuff with artists. And so I had been looking for a gallery for a long time, actually. I had reached out to several and talked to them and tried to learn about them and what their requirements were for artists. There's a couple of different co-ops around town. There's more now than there was back when I started looking.
Co-ops are those things, those places where you actually pay for a membership and you're allowed to use the...
Yeah, there's all different kinds. There's bunches of different kinds. There's different...
The facilities,
there's different, what do you call it, structures for the co-ops. So I think everyone is probably different. But a lot of them require the artist to work. So they don't have a staff. The artists staff the gallery. And that was one of the things, you know, I work full time, so that was one thing that hindered me sometimes with joining a co-op is I maybe couldn't work the hours that they wanted me to work. So then I found the Speedway Center for the Arts, and I live on the west side. I live about probably about a half mile outside of Speedway. And I went there, I looked around, and the artists all seemed really nice. The artwork was interesting and very different. There was just tons, it was very diverse in the artwork. It wasn't all race cars. And so I, you know, submitted to join, and they juried me and invited me to join them. And so it's interesting. So it's the Speedway Center for the Arts, and the town of Speedway owned the building that they were in. And so the gallery was owned by the town, and the art council oversaw the building and the artists and all that.
Speedway Art Council?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, which would like report up through the town council.
I
so
see.
It's, you know, so right after edit that out.
Get it out. No, I'm going to keep it. Listen to her cough right here. Sorry, go ahead.
Right after I joined the Speedway group, the town sold the building that the gallery was in. And so we lost the building. So we no longer have a gallery. And so there is a place.
Why? I wonder.
Well, Speedway, I don't know how much you've been in Speedway, Indiana, but
I used to live near there, and I would drive through it to go to school, but I've never really actually been there.
Yeah, it's really cool. Downtown Speedway, if you can call it that, is in the middle of a boom, I would say. There's tons of breweries. There's a bunch of restaurants. It's really nice. They're building a trail through there.
Cool.
The town of Speedway has always been really nice, and it's just a nice little like haven on the west side of Indy. And the downtown, when they got rid of that intersection right there in front of the motor speedway and turned it into a roundabout, I mean, it just completely
I have not been down there.
Oh, yeah? Since then? Oh, my gosh, you have to go. So,
like roundabouts, circles? Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to drive
it's
around
so
it.
nice. It's a good one. I love roundabouts, man. Doesn't
Me
that
too.
figure?
I'm a fan of circles, right?
Right. We're all about the circles. Yeah, so I remember driving through that intersection, and every time I did, I would just, like, pray that I didn't get T-boned or that I was in the right lane to go onto the road that I wanted. Because there's, like, 6 roads all converging in one intersection. It was the most horrifying thing ever. And because it's Crawfordsville Road, Georgetown Road, 16th Street, and Main Street all coming together in front of the Motor Speedway. It's
I do think I remember that from back in the day.
It was the biggest intersection.
Vaguely.
Massive.
So all those roads are intersecting?
Into one intersection.
Okay. And then they made that into a roundabout?
They turned into a roundabout.
God.
They closed off Georgetown Road. You can't even get to it.
Okay.
They turned that into the front of the Motor Speedway, the main gate. And it looks so nice.
Man, does that help with traffic around race time?
I would imagine so, because...
Well, right, I hope they would.
Yeah, I mean, I avoid that area on race day.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they turned the whole road into, like, a one-way. Like, Crawfordsville Road, you can't come west. I mean, you can't come east on Crawfordsville Road on race day when the race finishes. It is all lanes going west. It's kind of wild. So... They closed off Georgetown, and then they, so it's just 3 roads then going into the circle. So it's the 16th Street, Crawfordsville, and Main Street come off of that roundabout, and that's it. And it changed the look of that area so much. It is so much nicer. The traffic flows so much better. It's astonishing what that did for that area.
That circle.
Yes. It was the circle. The circle did
important.
it. And the Main Street has just been booming, and companies have been moving in and redoing a lot of the old buildings. It's beautiful. And like I said, there's tons of restaurants. There's an indoor karting facility that Sarah Fisher built.
Karting.
Yeah, like go-karts, indoor
go-karts. Oh, karting. Okay.
Yeah, so
Sarah
Fisher, the
karting that I'm. What would that mean?
The race car driver. She
okay, I'm not really in the loop with race except for Danica, Patrick, and that's about it. But
were you born in Indy? You weren't, were you?
No,
I can tell. So in grade school, I remember we used to make we would make race cars out of paper and little checkered flags, like. And you learned about the history of the Speedway and different race car drivers, and like, I mean, you live in Indy, and I grew up on the East Side, and I knew all of this because it's the Indy 500. It's a big deal.
Yeah,
we learned this stuff in school.
Wow.
So it's always funny to me when people don't really know that much about it, because, like I said, we learned about it in school, for crying out loud. So Sarah Fisher, female race car driver, she built that indoor karting place. They've got a couple different tracks in there, ovals and road course, that you can drive the karts on. And she's got a restaurant called the 1911 Grill.
She lives in Indy then, right?
Probably. A lot of them do live in Indy.
Okay.
I would imagine she lives in Indy.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That she actually invests money to help.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A town.
I mean, it's her business.
That's cool.
That's what she does now, I guess, her and her husband.
Does she race anymore?
No.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah. So, I swear, just about every time I go in there, there's a race car driver sitting at the bar. It's hilarious. But I really like that place. There's a Big Woods that's there also. There's some other places that have been there for a long time. Old restaurants and new restaurants, but it's really nice.
Right on.
So, Delara, IndyCar Factory, that's where we're showing at right now.
Okay.
So,
I was about to ask, so what happened to the what's the name again? Speedway Center for
the Arts. Yep.
Okay.
So our building got torn down. They tore it down. They sold it, and now they're going to be building some new building there that's going to have like storefronts and condos, I think, is what they did.
So you guys are showing where now?
The Delara IndyCar Factory.
Can you spell that?
So it's it's Dallara.
Okay.
And it's on Main Street in Speedway, and we're just there through the end of this week.
Because you refer to it as a pop-up.
Yep,
show.
It's a pop-up show. So we got to be there for 2 weeks. Delara gave us this whole end of their building that I guess it used to be a cafe or something, and there's nobody occupying it right now, so they let us use it and turned it into a little pop-up art gallery. And so we've got like 9 or 10 artists in there with their work showing right now, and it's really cool. It's awesome that they're doing that. And then we're working to possibly have the art showing at some other locations around Speedway. There's several businesses who have said that they would like to have us show some work. So we'll see what happens in the future with that. But the Delara space is really cool. It's right there on Main Street. It's a huge building. They make, I think they make the bodies for Indy cars is what they do, I believe.
Oh.
But they've got a really neat facility there where you can go in and they've got all these cars and they've got all these displays and things that you can see, and they rent out their facility for private events a lot. So people have fancy parties there and sit in race cars.
Oh, that sounds fun. That's funny.
Yeah, so that's where we're showing right now.
And so you're affiliated with them now. Mm-hmm. Are you showing anywhere else or have any other plans?
No. Let's see. A cousin of mine has a mediation center on the east side in Cumberland, Indiana, out east. Take Washington Street out east of Indianapolis, and you run into Cumberland, Indiana. Okay. And she's got a mediation center that she owns there, and she lets a local artist hang their work on the wall for free. And so I usually have some pieces hanging there just so it's up in someplace. Yeah. But most of my work, I sell it pretty much as soon as I create it. So
Someone,
the whole time.
Like, buy it from you without, and like non-commission work as well?
Right.
Too?
Yeah, I don't do very much commission work. I don't like it.
Amen.
So a lot of times,
like it?
I'm sorry?
Why don't you like it?
I don't know. It's not my idea of a good time. It's like there's so much anxiety that you're creating something for somebody. Somebody is paying you. Yes. And they want you to create something, and you hope they love it. And they're going to tell you what colors and things that they want. And maybe I don't want to draw in those colors. And creating mandalas is a very personal, like spiritual, meditative experience for me. And so if you tell me that you want one of the worst experiences I had with creating a custom mandala for somebody, they wanted it to be red, white, and blue. And I was just like, are you serious? Like that. So if you saw my mandalas, I prefer to work on black. Okay. And I do all different kinds of colors, but my preferred background is on a black background. So to work on white with red and blue.
Oh, they wanted it to be on white?
Oh, yes.
Oh, red, white, and blue on white.
Well,
did you try to...
It was white background with red and blue on top.
Did you try to suggest maybe black?
No, not at that time. This was a long time ago. Because after that, I said no more. No. So it was awful. I thought it was the ugliest thing I'd ever seen. I hated it. But I'm sure they were happy. They must be happy with it. But like I said, it's a very personal experience for me to create a mandala. So I don't like that feeling. I don't like having to create something for somebody and hope that they like it. And that causes me to have a great deal of anxiety.
Anxiety, right.
Mm-hmm. When I worked for the bank that got taken over and we all got huge severance packages and I moved out of Indianapolis, one of the things that I did after that was I started painting murals for people, and I had done that a lot for my friends and family. I started doing murals commercially for money, and it's a lot of fun to do. I'm really good at it, but the anxiety of doing it killed me. It was awful.
We're talking about big murals?
Big murals.
Okay.
Great big murals.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so I would do them in businesses and people's homes and things like that. And it's funny. It's like people would tell me what they want, and most of the time it was something that I would never paint myself or want in my home, but it's something that they wanted in theirs. And I would do it for them. And the whole time I'm doing it, I'm thinking, this is awful. They're going to hate it. Like, you're your biggest critic. And they're paying you. And I'm in these people's homes or their business painting on their walls. And they're going to have to live with this. And they're not cheap. It's not cheap to have somebody come paint a custom mural on your wall. And so I'm asking for all this money, and I'm painting this massive thing.
Yeah.
And most of the time it was something I've never painted before because people want different stuff. And I create mandalas, and it's with pencil and ink on paper, and I'm drawing them. But I paint. I've always been an artist, so I've always painted. And but I mean, I've never painted a seahorse before. So I would go online and pull up a picture of a seahorse, and then I would sketch it and be like, okay, yeah, I can do this. So then I'd go over the wall and sketch some seahorses and paint them, and holy crap, they look freaking awesome, but I had never painted one before.
They weren't wanting mandalas. They were wanting...
No.
Oh, okay, that makes way more sense now.
No, this was not mandalas. This was painting whatever they wanted on their wall. I painted birdhouses and roosters and wildflowers and underwater scenes, and
that makes so much more sense now, because I was imagining you when you mentioned commission work as in you were doing commission mandalas, but now it's like it's just like what anybody wanted, like
a normal, a normal. So back in the early 2000s, murals were huge, like everybody wanted murals on their walls. So I was doing a lot of those, but I would feel so much anxiety over that. Like, I'd get hired to do a job and they'd tell me what they wanted, and I would almost have a panic attack thinking about, I've never painted birdhouses all over somebody's wall. What if they're awful? What if they hate them? Like, what if I don't? Yeah. And then I would go do it, and I would normally be painting while the business was closed or the people weren't home. And I did quite a bit of new construction too, so they didn't even live in the house yet. So there might be construction guys there during the day, and then me painting on the wall. So that was fun.
I mean, did they ever give you any feedback about
the construction guys?
Not the sure.
The homeowners or those people. They typically didn't see it until it was finished, normally. So I had a few people come in the middle of it, and I don't suggest that because they don't really know what's happening. And so if they act concerned or they don't understand or like they don't know what a base coat is, so if you're not an artist, you don't know what,
So them coming in and seeing you midway, it's looking funky probably.
It's not what it's going to look like in the end. Right. I don't suggest you have people look at it halfway through. So
that's good advice, actually. Yeah. You can get like excited and you want to show the person how far you are along, and that's good advice, I think.
Yeah. I think if you're super confident in yourself and are just like, I am killer at this and you are going to love this, then, go for it. But it caused me so much anxiety. Okay. I couldn't do it. So people would come in and see it when I was finished, and they would be so happy.
Okay.
And they would cry. It was like on TV when they do the reveals on like HGTV. People jumped up and down, called their friends and family and told them, you have to come over and see this. It was like that. And wow. That high of feeling that and seeing that was so wonderful. But then I'd get a call to do another one. And instant panic attack. You want me to paint what?
That's really...
The inside of a pyramid. That's what you want me to paint on your bathroom. Like, okay. So, I've painted some crazy stuff. So, so now I only do murals.
But it's not what you want
friends
to do. You avoid that.
Yeah. Anything custom for people, I avoid.
Okay.
I don't need that kind of pressure in my life.
I was doing commission work there for a while, and it was just kind of boring too, man. It was hard for me to sit down and actually just work for even like 30 minutes because it was just so boring to me. And I think that's why one of the reasons why I just decided to take a break from it all and not even do any art.
Yeah, so. If it's not coming from my soul, it's terribly boring, and then I don't feel like it's good. Painting's a little bit different than the mandalas. doing custom, but it's not fun to do. So now, like, I have somebody right now who wants a piece, but instead of doing a commission, she told me the colors that she's interested in, and I told her to keep an eye on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if something I'm creating speaks to her, she needs to let me know as soon as possible. And she started a Pinterest board with things that have inspired her, that she wants that kind of a vibe or color tones or whatnot too. So I think that's kind of funny that, she invited me to this Pinterest board that this is kind of what I'm thinking, and it's all over the place as far as what the images are, but it's that vibe and those colors, and that's what she's kind of thinking. And I'm just like, if I do something that hits those colors and you're happy with, buy it. If not,
but you're not going to.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
But yeah,
like
I'm
what
not
you're trying to
creating
avoid is
something
actually
for her.
sitting down and purposely doing something for someone else.
Right.
Because
If
it's
I
just
come up with some awesome idea that are those colors and I do it and she loves it, great, buy it. And if she doesn't love it, then she doesn't have to buy it. And it's not a commission, and I don't have that pressure. So, but I sell a lot of my pieces now what they're even done. So what I do
great.
Yeah.
That is really good.
Yeah. But what it means then is I don't have a whole lot to show at shows. So I've had to take some pieces and say, this one is not to be sold on Instagram. Like, I'm not selling this piece. I'm going to frame it and have it ready for if a call for artists comes up that I want to enter, and I can put that in there. So that's the only reason I have framed work right now, to be able to show anywhere.
I think that's a good complaint, I would say. That's really cool that you... So now, is your goal to actually work full-time as an artist?
I don't know. I enjoy my job quite a bit that I do.
You're full-time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you do?
So I work for IU Health. I work at Methodist Hospital. I am the project coordinator for infection prevention for Methodist and University hospitals.
Project coordinator for infection prevention.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So it's a really cool job. I work with a bunch of amazing people. My boss is pretty much the best ever. She's amazing. And, we're helping people, and we're protecting people.
Okay.
And
so you have a full-time job that's actually rewarding to you.
Extremely rewarding.
You're not like cowering in your corner, biting your finger like I
some days.
Do this anymore.
And they use a lot of my artistic abilities at work too.
Oh,
so they're always having me
good.
do, graphic design type work, which is not my idea of a good time either. But but it's creative, and it's, better than scheduling meetings and taking minutes and then planning out projects and all that good stuff that I also do. So, so that's where I work. I do that full time. That period of time in my early 20s where I didn't have a job and was selling my mandalas and doing murals, and I would do paintings too, not very often, but I usually paint for friends. I was very, very lonely during that time, and I'd moved too. So I moved out of Indianapolis to a new place and was trying to do all this. And everybody, works Monday through Friday, and I was by myself all the time. And even when I would go paint murals, I was alone painting murals by myself, completely by myself, nobody to talk to, no friends, nothing around. And I was kind of sad. It was really lonely and kind of boring. So if I did work on my art full time, I would definitely have to do things different. I don't think I would want a studio in my own home. I would probably want to join one of the co-ops around town where all the artists are in a huge facility together.
To talk to.
People around, other artists to talk about artist stuff with. That sounds crazy to me.
That's why I love, because I'm painfully introverted too. Well, especially in my early 20s, it was a tough time as well. But man, it's once the Tuesdays come around and I know I'm about to record, there's a lot of anxiety, but then at the same time I think, well, I actually get to talk to somebody today, another artist about artist things. Yay.
Oh, that's exciting.
And so I get that, man. I get that, not wanting wanting a studio outside of the house. just so you can have somewhere to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, and then you have the expense of having the studio outside your house, and you have to go there to, like, you can't just sit at home and work on something. You got to go to the studio. Like, there's pros and cons to everything.
Yeah.
And just with being so like, I am so painfully introverted that, like, my idea of a good time is not talking to anybody. But then if I don't talk to anybody, then I never have anybody to talk to. Mm-hmm. So if you're forced to be around people, like at my day job, I'm forced to interact with these people that I love dearly on my team. And so then I'm around people and I'm talking. It's very good for me.
Because you are a social creature, It's like you have to get your social... Well, humans in general, I guess.
I'm joking. Yeah.
You have to get it in somewhere. And it's like, even though it's painful, it could be painful to actually get there. And go there,
you benefit from it for sure. If I didn't have that, then I would be very sad and alone all the time, and that would be bad.
We all would.
Yeah. So I would definitely have to do it different than I did the last time.
How do you push through? Like, do you have anything you do in particular that helped you push through any tough times? Like, say, like if you're doubting yourself or you have like low confidence. Say, if like you're entering into a show or anything.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, doing the murals, like I said, it was. I don't know if it was, like, I knew I could do it. It was more of the anxiety of worrying that the people wouldn't like it. So my talent as far as painting goes is I can paint anything from a photograph. And I paint in a photorealism way. So my goal in painting is for it to look real, look like a photo. That's not my favorite kind of art. And that's, like, I wish I could do something different, but that's how it comes out of me. And I'm sure maybe I could learn how to do something a little bit more whimsical, but I don't have a whimsical bone in my artist painting hand. It just doesn't exist. So I knew I could paint what they wanted. I knew I could technically do it, and I could paint it well, and it would look nice. If I can see a picture of something, I can paint that thing, no problem. It was more of worrying that people would like it, like what I did. It was the anxiety,
judgment, maybe.
I don't know what it is. Like, is it judgment? I don't think it's self-confidence. It's like, you're paying me to do this. I want you to love it, and I'm so scared that you're not going to love it. And that you're going to feel like
fear,
I've taken advantage or lied about my abilities, or I don't know. What is it? Like, I definitely have a little bit of the imposter syndrome going. I think most artists do. Like, I'm not really an artist, That kind of thing, too.
That's funny. Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I'm not really an artist.
Everybody thinks I am.
I'm terrible. Nobody likes
I'm
this.
I'm just some person who draws, like... I've got thousands of people who
I've heard that
follow everything I do on Instagram, but I'm just some person sitting in my living room,
a human
drawing.
That's I've heard about that. There are like a few cases. We had some event at work where it was some kind of women's event thing, and while they were practicing, we were setting up the tables, and they were practicing, so they were projecting their program onto the screen, part of their program, and they had, I can't even think of the word blank. So what they were projecting on the screen were pictures of different actresses, and to the right were like text of what they would say after they won an award, and it was something similar to that. They would say, I won the Grammy for Best Actress, and then thought right after that I don't belong here. They're going to give it to Jodie Foster. They're going to say, no, you didn't get this. We made a mistake.
Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned that. Like, they don't even think that they're that good, but...
Yeah, a lot of people struggle with that. It's because you're just a person, and when you look at other artists, like, my favorite artist is Mark Radin, and I love his work so much, and it's so freaking cool. But he's just a normal guy.
Yeah.
And
Who just
that's just what
happens
he's
to
good
work
at.
on his art
Yeah.
more than other people might.
Yeah, and he just does amazing, huge, beautiful pieces that are unbelievable. But he's still just a normal guy. And so, but you don't look at him that way. And
Right.
like any celebrity, you know. And I get people who treat me like I'm famous. Like if I respond to their message they send me on Instagram, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you responded to me." Like, well, okay. Like, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of, you know, like, oh, that's so sweet. But
that kind of has to give you you get feedback from people then that maybe you're actually pretty good at what you do, you know, especially given that you sell.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, you have a lot of hours.
You know, when people are making mandalas and they send them to me and they want help and they want critiqued and they want to know how I do mine and why do mine look so different than everybody else's, you know, and I just tell them I've been doing this for a long time. And I mean, I've always been an artist. I just always have. So I've always had the ability. It's an ability that I was born with, and I know it. So it's not something that I had to work at. When did you first realize it?
Like that you?
I feel like I wanted to be an artist ever since I was a little kid. Like, you know, like when you're little, and they ask you what you want your job to be. Like, I never said artist. I wanted to be an architect. I wanted to be an archaeologist. I was such a nerd. Things like that, and I was going to go to school for engineering. But I sold my first work of art in the first grade. So I had kids would pay me to draw unicorns for them. So in the first grade, I was really good at drawing unicorns and Pegasus. That was a big deal in the early 80s, you guys. And so that's what I would do. And then I remember I made stickers. So I made these little graphic designs and all these little things that like stickers, and then put like 2-sided tape on the back of them. And then I had some sheet that the tape wouldn't stick to, and I stuck it all on there. So I made like a sheet of stickers, and people would buy them from me in the first grade. And I had a couple of teachers buy them from me.
You've been starting a little business in first grade. Since I was 6 years old.
Yeah. So that was the first time I ever sold any art. And then in high school, my grade school art teacher told me that I had no talent and should not be an artist.
What?
Yeah, she was not very nice. So within our school system, we have magnet schools, and I wanted to apply to the art magnet. And so these other students were applying to the art magnet. So I said, well, I would like to too. And she said, you? Like, no, like you can't apply. You can't even. She wouldn't even let me apply. So
wow.
Yeah, so I didn't get to apply to the art magnet.
What grade was that?
6th grade. Because the magnet program started in junior high. So I didn't get to apply for it. And I mean, so then I was taught, like, I had been basically, I considered myself an artist since I was, 6 years old, and here it is now, 6 years later. And
it's that one person.
This one person.
Freaking person.
But it's the art teacher.
She was the art teacher?
Yes. And so she is.
What was her doing? Maybe she was just on something that day.
Well, I do believe she had a brain tumor. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not.
That could be a contributing factor to someone who.
So, so I didn't get to apply. I didn't do anything special in junior high with art. But when I started high school, I was in basic art. Everybody starts out in basic art when you take art. Mm-hmm. And I was in basic art for 1 week. We did self-portraits. And the teacher was like, we're going to move you down the hall. So the teacher took me out of my basic art class and took me down to senior advanced art and dropped me off there. And so I was in senior advanced art all 4 years of high school.
For some reason I was going to I thought you were going to say that they moved you down, but they moved you up.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Down the hall. They moved me literally down the hall to the
But
senior
to
art
advanced.
class. Yep.
Whoa.
The senior advanced art class.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
I had an amazing teacher, absolutely amazing. He helped start the Watercolor Society here in Indianapolis, and he passed away a couple of years after I left that school. Jim Lentz was his name, and he was just amazing. And I believe he had cancer. He was very young and just an amazing watercolor artist. I learned so much from him. The way the classroom was set up, he had his desk, and then there was a student desk right in front of his desk, like butted up to it. And that started the first row of student desks. And that was my desk. My desk was butted up to his desk, face to face, in front of him. So that's where I sat for 2 years through his classes. And then I moved high schools. And but for those 2 years, I sat right there in front of him, and he would sit and paint while we were all working on projects. And it was senior art class, so these guys had, like, they were allowed to do whatever they wanted. They would kind of come up with a concept, and then they would execute it and do it. And we didn't have, like, assignments necessarily. It was it was senior art, like, they came up with their own thing. They said, I'm going to do a watercolor. They decided what they were going to do. They designed it. They painted it. They finished it, and he graded it. And so I would sit right there in front of him, and I would watch him paint. And his watercolors were amazing. His watercolors look like photographs. You would never guess it was watercolor. He did a lot of horse paintings.
Okay.
And then he did a lot of commissions. He did portraits and things. And, like, they don't look like watercolor. It was amazing. I learned a lot from him. But that's always funny to me that my grade school art teacher was just like, you have no talent. You're not an artist. You're not applying for this program. And then I go to high school, and you need to be down here with the advanced kids. So, that made me feel really good.
Oh, yeah. It's more that good feedback you need.
Yeah. So when I changed schools, they were like, I'm coming in as a junior, and I've already taken advanced art. So they were, what are we going to do with you? So they stuck me back in the advanced art class again.
Right on.
So that's where I hung out for 2 years there until I graduated.
So one more question I want to ask before we wrap things up here. Do you have any advice you could give to our listeners about, say, like, pursuing something they're passionate about? Anything?
Oh, gosh. I don't, just do what you absolutely love. Learn about it. Do research. Practice. Keep doing it. If you love it and you're passionate about it, do it. People who think that, I'm not good enough, you are. You are good enough. You can do it. And art is one of those funny things where there's people born with natural talent, and then there's also people who learn the skills that you need to do it. And so even if you weren't born with the natural talent to do what you want to do, you can learn how to do it. And with enough practice, you could do anything. So that's my biggest thing, is keep trying, keep doing it, keep practicing, and put yourself out there. For me, it's painful to be in front of people and try to show my art and talk about it. So, I'm on Instagram, and I get to talk to people all over the world and show them what I'm doing and get feedback and teach other people how to do it. Mm-hmm. And the art of mandala is so cool. With the meditative, a lot of people think that it has a lot of healing characteristics to it. People do it as a form of meditation, a productive meditation. And so I love teaching that to other people. So, really get out there and try to learn about your world, learn about things around you. I heard about this one little thing in, this geometry class and in my art class, and I started researching it and found this whole world that it touches everything. And just, read and explore our world. There's a lot of cool stuff out there.
Get obsessed.
Yeah.
With something.
Something, especially circles.
Fist bump. I love my circles.
That's right.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you for coming over. Thank you for talking. Can't wait to have you back on again because I really enjoyed this conversation.
And we could talk for hours.
I
Thanks
know,
for having
man.
me.
I'm like, man, I'm trying to get it to the hour cut, you know.
Edit.
Also, has to do with storage space on my podcast account. I can only have so much like per month that but yeah, thanks for coming on, and I appreciate all your insight and advice and a little backstory about you and how you got started. We do have one request though, for the audience out there. Heather's daughter actually requested to say hi on this podcast, so we're gonna have her come over.
Nev. This is my daughter, Nev.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
This is her daughter Nev. She wanted to say hi.
Hi.
And she's waving at the camera. She's got her little headphones on. Now she's creeping back. Are those monkey socks?
Owl socks.
Owls.
Owl socks. Okay. Look like a monkey.
Owls.
Come here. Adorable. How old is she?
She's 12.
Okay. You think
Yep.
she'll be an artist?
She's definitely an artist. She's very creative. She is a wonderful writer, though.
Ooh.
She's been writing stories since she was a lot younger, even. And she wrote one a few years ago that gave me
Okay.
chills. And it was, the way she did it was so cool. Kids and how their minds work, it's just so awesome. But yeah, and she's like, I was going for an ominous feel.
Maybe I'll have her on.
Yeah, I need to interview her.
I just interviewed a writer 2 weeks ago. Having trouble keeping track now. 2 weeks ago, and he said he started when he was really young, just getting obsessed with storytelling and writing. So it's
She's
like
a big
usually what
reader.
you're doing
Yeah.
when you're little kind of can give you a clue as to what you like in your old age, man.
Yeah, she's got a great imagination, and
That's fantastic.
Yeah, she's very, very smart, and she's also a wonderful singer. Her voice is amazing.
Really?
Yeah, she's one of those people who can do everything. It's not fair.
Oh man, you know the hardest thing for those people is finding out what it is they
Focusing
actually
on
wanna
one
focus
thing,
on.
right? Yeah.
That's cool. All right.
Yeah.
man. Thanks, Heather Fidler. And can you tell people where they can find you online?
Yeah, so my Instagram's the big one, and I post a lot on there. I'm very active on Instagram, and my name on Instagram is Feather Fidler. So instead of Heather Fidler, it's Feather Fidler. So FEATHER FIDLER. And then, so that's Instagram. I do have a Facebook page, and it's, I don't remember. It's artist Heather Fidler or Heather Fidler artist. It's
Okay.
one of the two.
Just Google
I'm
search that.
not very active on my Facebook page. I try to post stuff on there every once in a while. And then I have my website that you can always find me on, and that's just heatherfidler.com. And the last name is Fidler, like Fiddler on the Roof, but
Okay.
just with one D. And so that's FIDLER.
Great. Well, there you have it, people. Go check out Heather's mandalas online. Thank you. Thank you, Heather, for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thanks again for listening, and I hope you join me on the next episode of Artist Solace. Bye-bye.